Marie Antoinette, a name synonymous with the French Revolution in 1789, where the French civilians overthrew the monarchy in bloody fashion. Much is known about Queen Marie Antoinette, most notably how she was a selfish queen spending the country's money on her lavish lifestyle, completely unconcerned about the suffering all around her. But she also had a compassionate side and a special place in her heart for children, especially orphans, potentially stemming from her inability to produce children of her own up to this point. And this is truly where our story begins, in 1776, when Queen Marie Antoinette was out for a carriage ride in the countryside. All of a sudden, a boy about 4 years old dashed in front of her horses and was almost killed. Although unarmed, he screamed in fear, and while trying to console him, the queen became delighted with his appearance. The boy's grandmother, upon hearing the cries, came running over to the scene. Legend goes that the queen immediately asked her if the boy's mother was still alive, to which she replied, "No, madam, my daughter died last winter and left 5 small children upon my hands." The queen replied, "I will take this one and provide for all the rest. Do you consent?" The grandmother, who obviously had no choice in the matter, said, "Madam, they are too fortunate," although she continued by warning Marie Antoinette of the child's apparent bad behavior, but it was to no avail. The queen, taking the little boy upon her knee, said that he would get used to her and gave orders to proceed. Along the ride back, however, they needed to shorten the ride because of how violently the little boy named Jacques screamed and kicked the queen and her ladies. The boy was not willing to go and did not wish to be taken away from his grandmother, but nevertheless, Marie Antoinette formally adopted him, and it is believed that he never again saw his grandmother or his siblings. The queen waited no time to convert her new son from peasant to royal. Firstly, by changing his name from François to Armand, and installing him into his own room within the castle walls. The scene was described as follows. The arrival of Her Majesty at her apartments at Versailles, holding the little rustic by the hand, astonished the whole household. He cried out with intolerable shrillness, and he wanted his grandmother, his brother Louis, and his sister Marianne. Nothing could calm him. He was taken away by the wife of a servant, who was appointed to attend him as a nurse. The child was really very beautiful. The queen was enchanted with him. He was brought to her every morning at 9 o'clock, where he had breakfast and dined with her, and even often with the king himself. She enjoyed calling him my child and lavished caresses upon him. Although he was the queen's new favorite toy, he was not considered a prince. Nevertheless, Armand was constantly raised around the royal court and was spoiled by the queen. He was given a white frock trimmed with lace, a rose-colored sash with silver fringe, and a hat decorated with feathers. Armand was the first child the king and queen adopted, but he was not to be the last. He was followed by Ernestine in 1778 and then by Jean in 1787, as well as Zoe in 1790. These adopted children were the only ones among the queen's foster children to actually live with the royal family. As with his foster sisters, he was a constant part of the intimate private lives of the royal family, and was treated as such in private. The queen, who during this period was tormented by the pressure upon her to give birth to a child, reportedly found comfort in them, although the fairy tale never truly blossomed, as it is noted that Armand never forgave the queen for taking him against his will, and developed a bad relationship with his adoptive parents. According to historians, the queen lost interest in her son after she had given birth to her first biological child in 1778. Much of Armand's adolescent life is shrouded in mystery, but one can imagine him as an unhappy, difficult child put in a miserable situation. The next concrete fact recorded about Armand is perhaps the most shocking one. This is because his adoption was ultimately an untimely one, as he was part of the royal family as most of France wanted them dead. After the revolution started in 1789, the Queen's world was thrown into turmoil. The royals were forced to leave Versailles and put under house arrest in the palace in Paris. Even when she was in prison and knew her days were numbered, she was asking the guards to try and find news about the whereabouts and welfare of her adopted children. She must have been dumbfounded when she learned that Armand had turned on his adoptive family and joined the revolutionaries. His lifelong displeasure with his unwanted kidnapping had finally reached a climax, and he decided it was time for revenge. His fear of the people thinking he was the queen's favorite and his true displeasure with his unwanted family made him one of the most bloodthirsty tourists of Versailles. Unfortunately for him, he died before the queen. The boy finally met his fate in November of 1792. He was struck down while fighting for the Revolutionary Army at the Battle of Jemmapes. As for his unwanted mother, she met a gruesome end, being executed after being charged with high treason. The guillotine fell on her head in October of 1793. Thank you for watching today's video. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing, and hopefully we will see you in the next one.